normal for a 5-year-old to be masturbating? This is a common question that I get all the time, and I recently had a parent ask me this over on Instagram. The short answer is yes. And the long answer is also yes, but it's just not a topic that we talk about often in our parenting circles due to a lot of the shame and stigma associated with masturbating. So many parents have just no clue about how common masturbation in young childhood actually is. And so parents just don't bring it up with other parents out of fear that their child is the only one that's doing this, and other parents might find it odd or think of it as atypical behavior. And many parents just feel like, you know what, I'd rather not say anything because I don't want to be ostracized by other parents. There's actually stories of parents self-diagnosing their child as having epilepsy because when they were told that their child was masturbating, they were so embarrassed that they actually preferred to ignore it and call it something else entirely. So let's talk about masturbation in childhood. And what I'm referring to is when a child is masturbating before they have gone through puberty. What is it? How to react when you notice your child masturbating, and what to say to your child in that moment. So what is it? Masturbation in young child isn't what you and I would think of in our adult brains as masturbating. The best way to describe it is, to a child, what they have found is a part of their body that feels good to touch, and so they like touching it. I mean, for us to understand it in our adult brains is when we have an itch, right? And we go to scratch it. When we scratch it, we're like, oh, that feels good. I often talk about these differences between a child's brain and an adult's brain when it comes to the talks. A child's brain doesn't have any preconceived ideas about masturbation. They're just following their body's cues. So their brain is saying, hey, when you touch that, that feels really good. Keep doing it. One of my best friends is a primary school teacher, and we're just going to call her Mrs. Johnson for privacy's sake, okay? She has noticed over the many years of teaching in the classroom that many of her students, all under the age of 8, would masturbate in class. Now, it's not always a hand in the underwear. Many times it's like a rubbing in their chair on the floor or something like that. She shared with me that one time when she was working at a private school, there was a student who was constantly wiggling and rubbing in their chair, and they would do it very vigorously. She said she talked to the student privately and said that rubbing their body on the chair is a private behavior and therefore should only be done at home because school is a public space. Now, this particular child continued to masturbate in class, so Mrs. Johnson requested a meeting with their parents. She wanted to ask them if they had noticed this behavior at home and if they had had a conversation with the student about public and private spaces. She told me that was the first and last time she would ever reach out to a parent to discuss this topic. She said these parents had no clue that this behavior was normal, and they actually accused her of sexualizing children. Of course, she stopped the meeting, said that accusation was uncalled for, and that was the end of it. Mrs. Johnson is not alone in this. There are many other primary school teachers who have told me the same thing. So many kids touch their genitals because it feels good, and parents just have no clue how common this behavior is. So what ends up happening is that these young kids find that their genitals feel good to touch, but because their parents are not having any conversations with them about when masturbating is appropriate, they have no idea that their behavior in school is making others feel uncomfortable. So how do you react when you notice your young child masturbating? Let's start with what not to do. Never say, "What are you doing? Stop that right now." "Oh geez, are you like touching yourself?" Nope, never say that. That right there just creates a sense of shame and stigma about their own body. If you notice your child masturbating and they are in a safe and private space and they're alone, just let it go. I mean, seriously, what better place to masturbate than in a private space where you are alone and feel safe? This non-reaction is actually a great reaction because it does not place any value on the behavior. Treat it as if you're just walking by and they're just playing. Now, if the child is not at home or not in a private space in the home, or you simply just feel the need to say something in that moment, here's a basic script. "I'm noticing you're touching your genitals. Do your genitals feel uncomfortable or does it just feel good?" If they respond saying it just feels good, you can simply say, "Okay." And then you can let them know. If it feels good, that's fine. But if the genitals ever feel uncomfortable, itchy, or painful for any reason, that could be a sign of an infection and you gotta let me know, okay? Now you might be thinking, should I bring up hygiene in this moment? I would recommend for you to just make that call depending on how you feel, because in that moment, it's not actually super necessary. I would rather just keep that check-in short and to the point, and really it was a focused question about health. And then later on, like when they're washing their hands before dinner or something, that's when I might just throw in, hey, it's important that we wash our hands before dinner and before we touch our genitals or after we touch our genitals in order to prevent any infections from happening. Let me tell you about Ellen. She is a lovely mom to a young girl who reached out to me because her 6-year-old daughter was masturbating. I'm just going to read to you what she sent me. Here's what she said. I have been very conscious to make sure that I don't shame her or the behavior, but I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable. So I responded, please elaborate, tell me what you mean. She said, well, she just starts, and this is her daughter, she just starts playing with herself in the living room while watching TV. I told her that it's fine to touch her vulva, but it would be better if she did it in her room where she's alone and it's private, since her vulva is a private part. Did you notice the error? This situation isn't actually a masturbation situation. I mean, yes, technically it's about masturbation, but what really needs to be addressed isn't the masturbating, it's the boundary. Ellen, the mom, was suggesting a quote unquote better place to masturbate, but her daughter already felt super safe and comfy in the living room. In Ellen's adult brain, the living room is actually a public space in the house, and the bedroom is a private space. But to Ellen's daughter, who has a child's brain, the living room is a private space, and anywhere outside of the house is a public space. The boundary just wasn't clear. Ellen could use this following script that I'm about to share with you in order to better clarify the boundary. When we take a shower or go to the bathroom and our genitals are exposed, we are usually in a private space, meaning that we are by ourselves and we feel safe. When it comes to touching your genitals because it feels good, that also needs to be done when you are by yourself and in a private space of the house. Do you know what the private rooms in the house are and what are the public rooms in the house? Great. So even at home, touching the genitals occurs only in a private space, like the bedroom or the bathroom. What about outside of the house? Are there any private spaces outside of the house to masturbate? Nope. Great. Right? It's never okay to masturbate at school, at a friend's house, at the park, even if nobody is there. Those are all public spaces. So as you can see, this is a boundary talk within a masturbation talk. And this helps a young child to understand that masturbation is an acceptable behavior, but there are boundaries. If you found this video to be helpful, please go on and hit that like button or share it with a friend who you think might find it useful as well. Now, it is really important that I mention the red flags of when masturbation in young childhood is of concern. If the child inserts anything into their vagina or anus, if the child tries to simulate the behavior with another person or child, or if there is compulsive masturbation leading to the avoidance of wanting to participate in activities that they enjoy doing. These scenarios may be reasons to be concerned about your child's masturbation, but it does not necessarily mean that your child has been sexually abused. I would encourage you to seek guidance from a physician or a child psychologist if you notice one of these red flags. If you have any general questions about masturbation in young childhood, go on and drop them in the comments. Or if there is a topic that you are interested in and would love to see a video on, also drop that in the comments. I'm Kathleen, and I make videos for parents on how to have the modern day sex talks.